Okay.
Okay, all right, well, good morning.
Morning.
And I will call this meeting to order. Would you all please rise for our pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For the benefit of our transcriber, let's go around the room and give our name, and we'll start over there with you, Dan.
Dan Alex.
Barbara Hill.
Betty Simpson.
Karen Woodson. Beth Cherry.
Jeff Hauge.
He's our new campus manager, Allison Geeson.
Okay, thank you. And we do have one absent. Bruce is not here.
He is excused.
Oh, is he excused? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, I would entertain a motion for approval of the April 5th meeting.
Also move.
Motion by Karen. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Becky
Okay. All right, we have a second. Becky, and any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the big item, why we are here today. And it is the discussion of merging BORCAB and CellCab. And it takes some board action, so I think that we have some discussion.
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and kind of, and Dan, please help me out here, because that was discussion yesterday. It has been to the town council to be able to combine actually 3 committees. That would be CRAB, BORCAB, and CellCab. What you see is a draft of the ordinance 22-10, which is the new one, which the council would like your input as well as CellCab's input on the language. The email that you see here is from Councilmember Bill Veach, who shared some information on things that he would like to have added as in language. And they are looking for you to have consensus and vote to be able to have language represented in this. And also, we need to come up with a name for the new committee.
Okay, I think we have a big assignment.
So can we just take a step back and just talk about, okay, we know Bay Oaks. Can we talk about what each one of these entities has done and how they, or is that all in here somewhere?
It is all in there. If you look at page 3 of the
Okay,
ordinance,
okay.
it talks about it's strike through, but you can still read it.
Okay,
What Bay Oaks, what CRAB, and what CellCab. So it's in there. So if you
Okay.
want to take a minute just to read what their responsibilities are.
And Allison, am I to understand that today's discussion with regard to the name of this new advisory board and the conversation we're having today with BORCAB will be the same conversation we're having with CellCab? So
Yes, at the end of the month, yes.
committees will have an opportunity to weigh in as to the name.
Yes, Barbara. And the council did agree yesterday, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's coming up on the meeting on June 6th for the
Correct.
second reading. And then recommendations, I would like for the committees to move forward in making their recommendations to council, either before or at that meeting.
Yesterday, I took it upon myself to give the report based on the fact that, to council yesterday, to announce that, BORCAB has really not had an opportunity to review this merging of the 3 ordinances into one, but that we were going to be having that meeting this morning to discuss and to vote. But in my comments, I did mention that merging these advisory boards makes great sense. It allows for more efficient planning for programs and staff for Newton Beach Park, Mound House, and Bay Oaks properties. The combined strategy will ensure that events and programs are well coordinated and that they complement each other and that they do not compete.
And I also think that the beach accesses, I know some of you had questions about that, they're really an extension of the service that we provide for the other properties. And to me, it does make a good fit. I have already been involved with some because I am the TDC liaison, so it is something that is new to this committee, but I would love for you all to kind of open up and see about that, because the beach accesses, if you think about what a wonderful resource that is to our community as well as our visitors, and are very important to maintain a certain standard like we do the other properties. It is a lot of different opportunities to educate and to also keep very natural and to extend our conservation message even there, with even some of the signs that I worked with Marine Research Task Force on that they do now have at the beach accesses. So to me, it seems like a natural, since Strandview is right next to Newton Beach Park, and many of the beach accesses, like I said, do have information and are an extension of that wonderful service that we provide the community through our facilities that are currently under the purview of BORCAB and CELCAB.
I have a question, Allison. Well, you know, those areas, obviously, the town properties having to do beach access, BORCAB, Bay Oaks, and Newton Beach Park and Mound House. But then if we're talking about all town parks, will that also include Bayside Park?
Well, I think that was one of, do you remember that? It seems like that came up with Councilmember Veach, and that's why he wanted parks in there, because, was that, I don't recall that. Dan, do you remember?
I don't remember, but it would make sense.
It would,
that it
yes.
would be in there because it is a park. It's going to be a very nice park, so.
It is.
I would think it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And it will also have events there too. So again, that might just be best under your purview. Oh my God, as if you need more, Allison.
More is good.
I guess I've got a question. Having been very active on the Mound House when that first started, and we were very busy doing what we had to do in order to achieve our goal. I'm wondering, I'm wondering if this is a little premature. We've got an awfully lot going with regard to Bay Oaks. We have our hands full. I'm just going back to thinking of Mound House. If we'd have brought in another group, then you've got all that other input, but we've already done our work, really, when we were doing the Mound House. At this time, I'm just wondering, what is the push right now? I feel like we have a very well-established group at this time that is working on a project that we've been working on for some time, and I can see a goal in the future. We're ready to undergo this huge project, and I would hate to see us lose our focus by adding, and I don't mean to say outside views, because everybody that comes in is going to have their own idea. We've been working on this. We know what it's about. I think that the goal to combine these in the future is something that we could go for, but at this particular time, I'm thinking that what is the overall committee going to be like, and what's going to happen to all the work that has gone into our preliminary discussions in the last 2 years. I would hate to see lose our focus and the passion that we currently have, that our members, I think, are passionate about Bay Oaks. Once it gets completed, then I can see it coming together. And I'm just kind of thinking out of the box a little bit here, and I think that that's kind of the purpose of our being here, is to get some other ideas. I haven't seen an organizational chart really that says everything that's going to be done, and I'm talking about structure of the committee and how large it would be. We pretty well have our hands full with the 7-member when everybody is here. And that's driven us, and I think done a good job for us. I'm wondering if this is premature, a little early. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, what the process is.
Dan, do you want to weigh in on that, or do you want me to?
I'll let you go first.
You correct me if I'm wrong. So if my memory serves correctly, one of the reasons why Councilmember Veach had this discussion, one, CRAB has been non-existent for a couple of years, I think. And Bay Oaks is getting into, and now is the time, even though it seems premature, to be able to combine the two committees, because of the goal of what we're going to be working on is so overlapping. Cultural, arts, theater, all the things that we have at Mound House that we are supporting are now going to be able to be at Bay Oaks. And the thinking is to not to compete, to always complement. And to do that would be to bring the committees together so there is a really good unified front on what we are doing at different properties of the town, so it's not competing. And then you have all the wonderful feedback from who is doing what. The goal is not to have duplicate performances or any kind of events. And if you really think about the space that we have at Bay Oaks and what was in the initial planning of that community building, of the type of programming, is also well-suited for Mound House and Newton Beach Park. So it was to be able to bring everybody together so we're not competing against each other, and the communication is strong enough for everybody to come together and come up with a unified agreement on what those types of events are.
But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that's really what she's saying. Like right now, our focus is creating Bay Oaks, the building and all these things right now. And so later, after it is built, then we combine. And it does make sense to combine and have the events. And I know that we have to start planning some events now, but that's truly not our focus. Our focus is what we come here once a month to do.
But the building is at 100% design almost. So I guess I'm wondering what else there is to decide on. That part was what the committee had done for several years. I don't know if you've all visited the campus, but it is moving forward at this point. So to me, that's why the next step is to, okay, you've got the building. Let's see what we're doing inside. Let's talk about programming. Let's talk about events. So I guess that's my question is, what is it specifically that you all are still wanting to do on the building side? Because it's pretty much, I mean, it's gone to 100% almost.
Is there anything else? Like, are we
No.
finished on that point? Are we moving? Because it's hard to see because we
Yeah.
don't see the building.
Yeah.
So it's like in our
I
heads, it's just
understand.
not quite there,
Yeah.
is even though it may really be there,
Yeah.
you know?
But we still have all the interior and everything that, has not even been discussed or talked about yet or anything like that.
You mean the furnishings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty, it was in the design, actually, and that has been discussed of different areas, have office furniture. I can't really see the committee wanting to pick out colors for the office. I mean, you all can if you want to, but you know what I mean? Some of that, I think, is because, you think about, the style of the building right now, it's not like we're redoing the weight room right now or the cardio room, things like that. And each of the areas, like the teen and youth area and the one for the after school, will have the things, transferred over that is needed for those programs. So the interior part, to me, is pretty much, because the spaces are already defined for that.
I can understand Betty's concern, and the reason I say that is because she and I both serve on the Mount House
Yes, you
Advisory
do.
Board and have for, at least for me,
Many years.
16 years. But in any event, what we witnessed during that time was a shift in leadership and a shift in the sentiment by the town council. And so the leadership was no longer there. The town council had issues with even building it at all. And so our Mount House Advisory Board was crucial in terms of the absence of that political will to move it forward. A lot of the discussions that were supposed to be handled by the museum interpretive consultants were not even there, simply because of the lack of communication. So during that time, Betty full well remembers, as painful as it was, we would meet twice a month.
Yes, I remember
Just
that.
to, like, for hours, to make the design decisions and
Exactly.
that kind of help with, where the programs were going and build a case for why this needed to happen in the first place, because there was a lot of pushback. So I can see what you're saying about the fact that there was a tremendous amount of work that we had to do before the Mount House opened to the public, which was 6 years ago. That said, we're not, I don't think, because of Allison being so, her demonstrating proven leadership in both the Mount House and obviously as we move forward with the redevelopment of Bay Oaks, that is not the issue today for us here at Bay Oaks, because so much of that has been well organized. The council is on board, the staff is moving forward. And so, as you say, a lot of the decisions, Allison, that we had to grapple with have already been made over the last, 4 years of Bay Oaks being together and deciding what this new campus will look like. So I see where you're coming from, but I just don't think that for me, the comparison is a realistic one. And as far as planning is concerned, you can see how quickly we're moving with the building, the construction, and the shifting of land, that it's going to be only a question of months before programming's gonna have to actually start to be determined as to what is going to go, where is the movie going to be? Is that gonna be at Bay Oaks? Is that gonna be at Mount House? And those are all questions to be addressed by Allison.
I think,
So the coordination of those properties, I think, are crucial to have it all under one. And simply because it's already under one, Allison's position, officially her title, Culture, Parks, and Recreation Director. So I would think that the merging of these three advisory boards into one, in my view, should be Cultural, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board, that really it becomes well-coordinated, well in advance of the actual new park being opened.
So doing it now.
Dan?
Sorry?
Doing it now makes
Yeah.
more sense.
Doing it now, for me, makes more sense.
I think Chair Simpson raises some valid points. Although the building may be, 100% done, there's a lot of things that the Mound House can't do that Bay Oaks could do, and vice versa.
Yes.
So, I see your point about being a little premature, because although the building is done, there's still a lot of discussions, I think, that have to be made as to best ways to monetize that property, whether it be soccer events, softball events. But at the end of the day, it's still a Parks and Recreation area, and this committee seems very intuitive as to what goes on there. Like you spent 4 years, it's been 4 years since I've been involved in it.
Right.
So there's a lot of background information there that I think this committee has, that maybe the new committee, if it was combined at this time, wouldn't have.
Well, and I guess, Dan, I'm sorry to interrupt, but how would that work? I think that's what everybody is kind of wondering, like, well, would I be on the new committee? I mean, couldn't we put together, because two of our members are overlap. And we are short one with Holly not being with
How
us
many
now.
people are
So
on CellCab right now?
there's the same amount, 7. But could the committees decide that, to make sure that balance is really strong with this transition? And I think I can hear the underlying, maybe questions of that, to make sure that if we do combine, how big do we get to determine how many members? And can we make sure, I guess, that certain people represent certain strengths that we need to make sure that we are like recreation or sports, or, you know what I mean? I mean, because I know with the Mound House, we have a historical advisor because we need that. Could we set it up similarly to where we always have a good balance between what you're talking about? And can the committees combine and still have the members that are currently? How would that?
Well, and that's the discussion I think we all have, that hasn't
Yeah.
been had. And
Okay.
I'd hate to rush things through and not have those discussions.
No, that's an
You know,
important discussion.
Because people spend a lot of their free time to volunteer on these committees, and I'd hate for someone that wants to be involved not be able to be involved.
Yeah, I
Because we
never.
made a decision that you know, ousted them, if you will.
Oh, no, and see, I never even thought of that. I just was thinking everybody would just come together because that's kind of, that's my.
But you really have 12, not 14, because you have, they're both.
Yes,
There's
and
12 people you're talking about.
there's possibly,
Crab is nobody, right?
nobody, there's nobody.
Okay, so we're only talking about the two advisory.
Yes, yes. Yeah, there's, Crab has not been,
We would just take Crab's duties and combine.
yes, because it's, the committee has been not, has had no members for several years now, I think. And they just don't have enough to even have
The duties need
Yeah.
attention.
There was discussion yesterday among council as to whether there would be 5 or 7 members on this advisory board, and
I thought that was the audit committee. I thought that was the audit committee.
Well, it was a general discussion about the way it said there was really no numbers put in place about it. So we have to have those discussions through an ordinance or resolution to be able to determine exactly how many people are going to be on
How many
which
members?
board.
So I think what that means is we can make they could make a recommendation on how many members this board could be. I know it was the audit committee making sure that that was not, by any statute, had to be a certain number, I think.
I feel like people drop off for different reasons, personal reasons, whatever they drop off for. I mean, if it's possible to combine everybody at once, and then as people drop off, don't refill that position. But like, let everybody come together at first.
like a hiring freeze.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, if you lose 4 people, you don't replace those 4 people, then you're down to 8, like, I don't know.
A
just
lot
my
of the reason I
opinion.
wanted this discussion to be had yesterday was just for this reason. I'd like to hear from the committee, all the committee members. Do they feel that they have more that they could offer over the next year, year and a half, as far as programming abilities, getting some things in, coming up with some ideas, knowing the background? Or do they feel comfortable with combining, I guess it would be 2, it's 3, but technically 2, committees together and working together to come up with those answers? That's the reason that I really wanted it to come back to the committees for discussion, to find out if there's a will that you think that you have much more to offer, that you feel that you're more in tune with what's going on as far as programming and the staff and what you can do to help monetize that property. Then that's what I'm here to listen to. That's what I want to hear. Or if you're fine with moving them together, then I'm fine with that too. But
Well, just from a practicality standpoint, it would have to be an odd number for voting purposes, so 11 or 13. We do have 2 people that overlap, which is great because you get both perspectives, because I can honestly say, I don't know all the programming that takes place at the Mound House. Very, very familiar with Bay Oaks, and so what is that balance? And does it make sense? I really kind of like what Becky said, is like, you start out together, and then through your bylaws, you decide on what is the maximum amount on the board, and through attrition, you get there. But maybe you start out with everyone being on there so that you get to hear, all of the issues, all of the ideas, all of the goals going forward, have that stabilized first, and then move through getting to your final count.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, Karen, on even though we're all one island, so many people have no idea what we do at Mound House or Newton Beach Park, and vice versa, other than the overlap. So I think it's a real good, wonderful benefit to have that. So people know, what we're all actively doing at all the facilities.
There are specifics, like, I mean, I know Beth is so involved with soccer, like, you're only gonna do soccer at one place. Like, there are specific things that you do
Absolutely.
need people
Place, yeah.
speaking for,
Yes.
and,
Absolutely.
my kids are gonna be there forever. 'Cause
They signed up for youth basketball yet? The registration is on the website.
did not know the registration was open, so yes, they will today, because they're both like chomping at the bit to play. Yes. So, I mean, that's, you know, stuff like that is important, but, I mean, we need
The
youth
balance is.
at Mound House, we need, you know, all the things, which I do understand.
Share that basketball so I can share it too.
Do-
I know that
Will do, Beth.
CRAB has not done anything for some time. At one time, CRAB was a very active committee on this island. And I remember when we,
Not a crab anymore? So it's probably because of the name. They don't want to call it crab.
CRAB, exactly. And I sat on the LPA, and when this had first come up, and we're talking about the original LPA, and CRAB came along, and they wanted to have this walking path from one end of the island to the other. And it was just something that we thought, boy, that would be nice, and combine it with the preserve, you know, and of course, now we realize how much development has actually gone on. CRAB was also very active at one time in the leadership class that they had. And so when leadership was coming up again this year, I thought, oh, good, that's something now that CRAB can get a hold of and kind of run with. Well, apparently, that did not happen, and the town did it, you know, that program. But I'm just, I don't know if we, and I don't mean take it out, but if we removed that for a little bit, since it really does not exist right now, and just concentrate on our two committees, the BORCAB and CELCAB. The name that Bill Veach had sent out, Parks and Arts Advisory Board, it's pretty abstract.
Probably on purpose.
I mean, what is that really saying? Whereas when we talk about CELCAB, okay, when we talk about BORCAB, we know what we're talking about. So I guess I was questioning some of that preliminary. I know it's in the Land Development Code, and when they talk about having a committee such as CRAB, it all sounded wonderful to start with. But from a practical standpoint, I think it was too early at that time. So of course, it eventually died. I'm sorry that it wasn't able to continue just doing what it was trying to do. For instance, this walking path, the length of the island. I don't know if you remember that or not, but it was. Yeah, but it was a wonderful idea. And when you get down to the very south end, when you're in that area, there are areas that you could have a walking path and not get on the boulevard. And that was the purpose, and staying off the boulevard. Of course, that's a different story now, because now we have wonderful sidewalks and no red barrels, you know, I mean, so that we really have positive things going on. I don't know, I guess I just wondered why CRAB was put in there. I understand that it's a defunct, or it has been a defunct committee, and that's too bad. But I don't know that we need to have that involvement. I'm not sure we have enough information on that, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I don't fully understand crab. I agree that it needs attention. And so I don't understand exactly what crab was doing. Could you explain it a little better, maybe?
Well, it's listed in this.
Yeah, I mean, it talks about like beach accesses and streetscapes. I
Yeah.
mean, are you talking about like everything, the signage, the cleanup? I mean, just making sure everything is just, it's beautification, basically, or?
Yeah, Dan, can you speak from that? I really have no idea about what crab projects were in the past, or,
I will be honest, I don't know a lot about what CRAB did in the past. As you said, I know it's not been active for a while. There's no
Right.
members, but joining that with at least one of the two boards makes sense.
It doesn't seem like it would take up a lot of discussion space. Like, it's just an adjunct, like, okay, what do you think about this? Can we change it? Okay, done. You know, I don't-
I think,
And doesn't the
right,
town,
Becky, that's how I feel too.
yeah, and doesn't the town really monitor now the beach accesses, streetscapes, public
It
access?
takes away from the town, right?
So they do. They do. I think this would allow, I'm going to give you an example. If somebody wanted to put a sign or something else on the beach, that the committee would have a review first. One, make sure it's appropriate. And two, make sure that it is like the other signage and the quality of signage that is, we're going through our rebranding.
I mean, we
So-
did a good job on the Bay Oak sign, so.
Well,
So-
when I look at the advisory board called CRAB, it's Community Resources.
Yes.
But that's what both of our advisory boards already do too. Both Bay Oaks and Mound House provide community resources. So to me, dovetailing
community
all of
centers.
that into one is much more efficient. You're right, I mean, you know, like how many conversations would this advisory board have with regard to beach access? Maybe once or twice a year, might have to do with design, it might have to do with budget, but it's not in terms of long-range planning as to what exists there, excepting to make sure that the town is maintaining it properly and that all of the properties have the same look. That's aesthetically, that's in terms of usability, that's in terms of visibility. So to me, community resources is an easy blend. I can see the concern about Bay Oaks and Mount House, but if we have both advisory boards serving on this one advisory board that brings that level of commitment and attention and love for these two properties, then I don't really see a conflict. It's really sort of taking all of that and bringing it into one.
I agree, you're not adding much. I mean, it mentions pools and parks under crab, but that's,
Right,
There's one
there
pool.
was a lot of I think there was a lot
Right.
of redundancy.
Right.
And again, with
Exactly.
programs and events, when Allison says, okay, well, the town wants to have a concert or a party or show a movie, is that supposed to happen at the Mount House or is that supposed to happen at Bay Oaks? And, where is her community input, if not from us? Because that's basically what you have to deal with.
Barbara, as you said earlier, when the Mound House Committee was formed, their job was to see that through, and they were very focused on getting it to where it was a well-oiled machine, where it's at today and where it's continued to go. I think this committee's done a very good job of doing or starting the same thing with Bay Oaks.
Exactly.
My only fear is that now that Mound House is running very smoothly, thanks to a lot of good work, and Bay Oaks is moving in the right direction, you had mentioned, political capital and what we do have an election coming up. The council could look a little bit different in November, we don't know. So will the new members be as focused on making sure Bay Oaks can be the best it can be? I don't know. So I see your point, I see everybody's point, it's just kind of one of those, I really don't want to see the momentum or the focus lost on Bay Oaks that's taken 4 or 5 years to get to where it's at. But anybody that's on both those committees, I think, cares about both equally. So I don't know that would be relevant, but I just want to make sure that focus doesn't get lost.
So
And
I am,
You're absolutely right, Dan. I mean, that's where, and I've seen it in other initiatives too, that a government takes on, especially a local government, when the mayor is, really for, this is not talking about Fort Myers Beach, but in other cities, that the mayor is totally for something, and then a new mayor comes in and says, yeah, that's not important to me, and sways the council to decide differently, at which point then the community is saying, well, wait a minute, where's the support for what it was that we thought was so important? And so it can shift on a dime, and that's, I think, the reason why these advisory boards exist in the first place, simply because this is our voice speaking collectively as community members to guide the council to say, let's rethink this. This is why we've been doing it, let's continue.
I don't think combining us or not combining us makes a difference in that, though, because
Yeah.
the council could change either way.
so,
Well, that's
So,
true.
you
That's
know,
very true.
well,
But
maybe just we'll
also-
have more people on our side for Bay Oaks in that case. I
but
don't
the
know.
other thing, to Dan's comment that he made, strategic plans that were approved by town council that I'm responsible for, as well as the committees, I don't see the focus being non-existent on either, because that's one thing on our agenda today, is to review that strategic plan. Each and every property has a strategic plan. We will never not be reviewing these every 6 months to bring back up what that focus is supposed to be, to make sure that that progress is being done. So this is a roadmap, and why strategic plans are so important, because it really helps to remind you of that focus. What are we doing? Is there something new that we want to have? But it's just, I think, as a director, one of the most important things to be a part of is that strategic plan. So that's why we have that, to never lose that focus. And when it's completed, or when we're ready, we'll do another one with community input and town council input again. But that was really the basis of the whole part of that, to really stay focused and to not lose that, and not lose all the input from our community and our council members and our volunteers and our committee members and staff of what they wanted and what they wanted to see with those properties. So I just want to bring up that strategic plan, because it's on the agenda again today to review, but it is a really good reminder for me and everybody to revisit, to make sure, wow, we're doing this, or wow, we need to get a food truck or concessions at the pool this summer, things like that.
I want to hear your opinion.
I've been digesting. and
You have been really quiet.
I've been listening and digesting and thinking.
Okay.
I think that Betty's concern probably is that if we merge the two, that what we've been doing doesn't get overturned by anyone, that somebody doesn't come in with a different vote or a different opinion, is basically, I think that's what you were trying to convey, right?
Right.
We want to keep going. I do see a lot of the overlap in this as well, and I think that they do complement each other. I don't necessarily, as long as we don't have the other committees coming in and joining in, and then, trying to retract what we've started, I don't see that we'd have a problem with it.
I think that helps if we combine everybody, though.
Right.
Like, if we start
Yes.
eliminating somebody from any group, then you're overtaking by the other group,
And I do agree with whatever number that we come up with. Same thing with the attrition. Whoever falls off, then you just don't replace it. But don't kick someone out just because you want to hit a number.
Right.
I don't think that would be fair to the people who've put in all their time and effort and passion into what they've been doing.
So where are we at with what you all want to do? So we have a really good discussion. Dan, do you want to go first?
Yes.
Yeah. The more I've thought about it, the more it does make sense. I can tell you, when I walked in here, I had a little bit different mindset than I do now. But it does make sense that they do overlap a lot. My fear is also what yours is that, anybody that has taken the time to volunteer doesn't get the chance to continue volunteering. And whether that's 12 people or 13 people or whatever, that I think that has to be worked out. But the last thing I want to do is tell someone that's spent their time and volunteered that they can't do it anymore, or that they're not, that wouldn't sit well with me. So if there's a way that we can get to that point, I think, where they can both be combined, but everybody can, maybe there will be somebody that no longer wants to be involved.
Right, once it
So, once it combines, but I just want to make sure that in the combination of the two, that there's nobody left behind.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
Well, and I think that both of our committees, and when I say both, I'm talking about CellCab and BORCAB, we usually have a full group. We just happen to have a vacancy now because of Holly resigning from our committee. And so there is an opening on BORCAB right at this time. I see other committees that they're crying for help. I mean, they want more members, and they just are not getting it. Whereas these two committees, I think there's so much enthusiasm for them that we don't really have vacancies very often. So I think it would have to be a large enough group that people want to continue, and of course, that'll be up to the council and all, the regular process. So my concern would be if they tried to make it into a 7-member combined committee. I think that would be,
I think they're open for discussion to how many members and how this would be set up. That was what I got out of the discussion yesterday.
And perhaps, in meetings like this and the meetings that you have going forward before, then you can get a feeling or talk to people offline and who would be interested in continuing on, who wouldn't. That way we'd have a better number of discussing, real numbers.
Right now, there's 11 members, active members between the two groups. That takes Betty and Barbara out because they overlap. We have 6 here. And then there would be 5 for CellCab because we have 7, but if you take the 2 out, so right now we have 11 active members between the 2 committees.
Pretty good.
I was just trying to add up.
Yeah, I had to think a
This is
minute,
okay, I have
yeah.
to write this down. 11, and
That's the
and to
perfect
your,
odd
yeah.
number.
11 voting
it
members.
is a good number.
In the last year and a half, we've had 3 vacancies on this board, because I got on, and then Bruce got on, and now Holly's gone. So, I mean, it does happen. I don't know how Mound House is, but people just have things that, occur in their lives, or they move,
it
or whatever.
happens, you bet.
Yeah,
And it'll continue to happen.
absolutely.
Yeah, we had 1 vacancy, Cindy Richardson, and then Ellen Vaughn had taken that one, so, and that's been really it for the past several years, but it does happen. I mean, people move on to do different things.
Are you going around the table to ask anybody's?
Yeah, I want to kind of get a consensus from each one to see how you feel about that and what your idea is. I know we have a full agenda, but I think that this is a subject that let's take as much time with it as we need, and let's get an idea as to how people actually feel going forward.
Absolutely.
What can we do? So, would you like to start?
Sure.
Okay, good.
I can completely see why we would combine all 3. Like I said earlier, I think CRAB is just a very small entity to combine. It's not going to take up a lot of discussion, but it does need attention. And who better to give it attention than a parks department? I would love to see all 11 people. It's a good number for voting, and it would help us combine. It would help those of us that are not on Mound House learn more about Mound House, help those people on Mound House that aren't on Bay Oaks learn more about Bay Oaks, so we can, have different ideas. And I would love to see more, youth events at both. So I could see combining, but keeping all 11 people. That's my vote.
Okay,
I agree.
Barbara?
I like the idea that Dan raised about leaving no one behind because of the commitment of these advisory board members. So looking at combining, simply because CRAB is not active, looking at combining CellCab and BORCAB, giving us 11 advisory board members, is certainly a little on the unwielding side for any committee, but I think because of this unusual situation, that would have to be the case, and through attrition, the board would eventually come down to, say, 9 or to 7, which, then I think there are enough chairs for
I was
7
just counting, we
people.
have 11.
Right.
We can actually, if we put people there.
Oh, yeah.
We can fit everybody, don't
Yeah.
worry.
Yeah,
We can provide 11.
you bet.
I was just looking at the same thing.
Yeah, right, so wait a minute, how many chairs do we have here? And of course, now that COVID isn't so horrible, we can actually
Right.
sit closer together, so that does
Exactly.
work.
But it can rear its ugly head,
Oh, yes, that's very
so
true.
we have to be careful.
And again, I just want to reiterate, I believe that the consolidation of these advisory boards is more efficient. It's more efficient for Betty and me, because we have fewer meetings to come to. More efficient for staff and for council in terms of processing all of these programs that we offer. So I'm for consolidation. I thought this was a little quick. I was kind of surprised that the council was sort of jumping on this, and I think maybe our initial reaction to that is that, well, wait a minute, I don't want that, it's too soon. And that was my initial thought too. I said, wait a minute,
Exactly.
what the heck is this? When did this start coming up? We haven't had, as an advisory board, a chance to even have this conversation. So that, I think, more than anything else, set up almost an adversary situation that perhaps if there had been more lead time, could have been avoided. So that said, I'm getting my arms around the idea that it makes sense, and so I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Karen?
So I have a few thoughts on it. I do see the rationale for combining everything. I agree with what you all have said. 11 people is really tough in any kind of board situation. I look at the town council's only 5, and then this, you know, for the Parks and
7.
Recreation would be 10 or 11. But I think to start, it would be the right place to be so that everyone could gel and, you know, we could merge the thoughts and the programs and all of that kind of thing, taking all the historical views. But I think long-term, it would make more sense to have it at probably 7, maybe 9, but do that through attrition, because people will
Oh, yes.
fall off. It happens.
You bet.
You know, Councilman Beach made a suggestion on the name. I don't think in any way, shape, or form that covers the whole gamut of what we want to represent. So I would say if we're going to do this, I mean, I don't like the Parks and Arts Advisory Board. I think there's a better name for that to be more inclusive of what it's really about. I was just thinking of some of the things that we were talking about crab, and, you know, I sit on the LPA as well, and a lot of these things that crab used to talk about, and public access and beach access and signage and everything, actually comes to the LPA. You know, so that's like another check and balance before it goes to council. So most of everything that was in crab is easily covered by any, you know, this new entity and by the LPA. So I think we have to, I'm not opposed to getting started on this, but I think there has to be a lot more thought and conversation and communication between the two groups before we actually set in stone. And then again, you know, you're combining, so bylaws will change, and got to look at all sides of that and bring those and mesh those together. But all in all, I totally understand the reasoning for it.
Okay.
I'm in agreement, but I also I have no knowledge of what the other committee does. So, or what, you know, what that entails, so I would be curious to see that information as well. So not to be, obviously not to do what we don't want them to do to us, but just out of curiosity to see what exactly are they into, what's the Mountain House Group, and what is the other CellCab doing? And what does that entail? Just to know, you know, what are we getting into?
Well, I have to tell you, the agenda's pretty similar. Without the redevelopment plan, they have a director's report. We have strategic plan that we review. And events and things like that. So it is very similar, only with the 2 properties of Newton and Mount House. Yeah. Would you all be interested in we have a CellCab meeting on the 26th. Would you all be interested in, if that's okay with the chair, to be able to have that discussion? Because they're going to be bringing this up for the first time within them. You all kind of touched on it at your last meeting, but CellCab has not had a chance to. So do you all think that's a good idea, since you clearly want to talk amongst each other? And Sunshine Law, we kind of need to have you all
I
together.
would love to have you all come to the
Yes.
Mountain
time?
House meeting, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's 3 o'clock.
Consider yourself
3 o'clock on the 26th of May,
May 26th.
at 3 o'clock. I just, since you all were curious about what they're doing and to have that discussion.
Okay, I could do that actually. It's a Thursday, right?
It is.
Well, and to bring along my thoughts on all this, as you know, from the beginning, I had wondered, what is the push? Why, what is the benefit of this at this particular time because of the process with Bay Oaks? And so I thought it was important for us to continue working on that. But I have really liked listening to all the input, and I can certainly understand what this, in the long run, would do to benefit, because it all comes under Allison's purview. And it would certainly speed things up a little bit. And the idea that we will have probably a larger committee to start with, but I agree with Karen that it's like any other, are we really going to have 11 people that will want to continue? And we may be surprised and everybody would be there at every meeting and really gung-ho on it. On the other hand, you may see that same nucleus of people that want to participate. So, I can see, again, my concern was the timing of it, but I think all of those things have kind of cleared in my mind by our conversation here today. And I appreciate everybody's input because it certainly does help as you go through this. And I had received some information from Bill Beach, and when I saw that Parks and Arts Advisory Board, I thought, anyway, but it was a start. And thank heavens for members that are interested enough that they are going to go back and analyze why are we doing this and what can we do to benefit both groups. So I appreciate the idea that we could merge with CellCab at their meeting and probably get some more information. So I don't know if there's anything else that we need to discuss on the merging with us. I think that we have a consensus to move forward and to listen to other input.
Do we need to give opinions on a name today?
It would be good if you all had an idea going in, maybe.
Pardon?
An idea, if you all had an idea of what you wanted. It's always good to have
For a name.
suggestion for a name when you are part of the CellCab discussion. If you wanted to, Barbara, you had brought up the Cultural Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Which I still like, although the bad thing about that, it sounds a whole lot like crab.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no.
Well, if you add environmental to it, it
Sounds like
comes
a
up
hostile
as
takeover.
SEPRAB.
Yeah, and that softens it a little
Yeah.
bit.
Also, Environmental Parks and Recreation Advisory Board becomes SEPRAB.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, all the years that I served as a member of CellCab, CellCab just never it never identified the Mound House. If it had been called the Mound House Advisory Board,
Right.
I would take issue because we had like personal ownership of that Mound House Museum and building
Yes.
that museum and making it happen and,
Exactly.
collectively turning it into the great success that it is, but it was immediately identified as the Mound House. The advisory board name meant nothing, just absolutely nothing. What park isn't about, environment? What park isn't really about learning in one way or another? So it, from the acronyms, I'm thrilled to see a change.
Okay, well then we will be meeting with CellCab at 3 o'clock on May 26th. And be sure to put that on our calendars because that's a different type time than what we use, our 9 o'clock, so.
I like 9 o'clock better.
And, yeah,
Is that something, though, that we just come for that part of the conversation, so that you can still have your meeting?
Oh,
We can do it in
sure.
the beginning.
full,
Yeah.
And we could
So
just
in the
be at,
beginning.
Yeah,
like,
we'll put
maybe
it on
right at 3
first.
o'clock, and then,
Right. And then if people have to leave, that's one thing. Because everybody has a busy schedule, so.
Going, like, as far as the name goes, I like community or cultural.
Pardon?
Community or cultural in the name, one of those two. I don't know anything from there. I don't have any other ideas. One of those words, I think. I don't know.
Well, everybody can come with those ideas
Yeah.
to this meeting, too.
Okay.
And I think that that's important.
Yes.
And that we're all going, and I think that we always have been going toward the same basket. I mean, we all want to achieve these things for all of our committees. And so I think this is a way of bringing us all together and giving that input. So, I mean, I'm sure that all of us have had questions, and so I appreciate the input today.
Someone had gave me a name yesterday and asked if I would present it to you, and I said I would, so don't kill the messenger. I'm just giving it to you. They said, why not just call it Board of Arts and Recreational Development? So I passed it along.
What, board of what?
Board, your acronym would be BOARD, Board of Arts and Recreational Development. So I passed.
I like acronyms you can say. That one to me just sounds like BORED. I'm on board.
Okay.
Well, as far as Allison's title, it's actually CPR, which,
Wrapping it up.
which in a way, some advisory boards offer CPR. Right. Which I kind of like.
Okay.
And do we have to
Idea.
have AB after each one? I mean, is that
Advisory
written
board.
in stone?
Yeah. Well,
AB?
it's an advisory board, so, yeah.
It gives it something you could say, something ab.
Well, we can work on that, but Allison, is
Then
it
it
today
becomes
that we actually
RDAB.
need,
Arts and Recreational Development Advisory Board, RDAB.
our,
Well,
like,
RDAB.
Well, I'm pretty sure that with the CELCAB meeting, that we can have you all both, I can make it a joint meeting for that portion, and you all as BORCAB could then make your decision. Is that what you're asking? Like, do we need to do this now? I think that we could have that, since it will be on record, we could do it as a joint meeting just for that discussion, that it could go on record, the final, once you all talk to CELCAB. So that could be voted
That
on.
makes more sense, because we can come up with whatever we want here.
Yeah, and then vote on it, and then it changes, so,
They need to have
yeah.
their input, too.
You bet.
So Allison, with regard to this board action agenda item, are we asking actually for a vote? Because this is more important than just a consensus, correct? So for the purpose of this particular meeting today with Bay Oaks, are you looking for a motion for us to vote on?
To combine the committees, yeah,
Right.
pending the other things that you all are gonna be discussing with CELCAB. So, yes, that would be very
So with
helpful.
regard to the number of the members, with regard to the name, doesn't
Yes.
have to be determined today. We're only talking about voting on the merger.
Yes.
Okay.
So the name and number would be determined at a later time.
CELCAB, yeah. We could do that.
Okay. Have you got a motion in mind?
I do, I can make a motion.
Are we surprised at this?
Are we happy?
Yes, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that the recommended by council, the three current advisory boards, that's CELCAB, BORCAB, and CRAB, be combined and merged into one. The advisory board would not have a name, nor would it have a designated number of members until such time as we've had a conversation with, and a meeting with the BORCAB, the CELCAB members.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. Sorry, Beth.
That's okay. All good.
Becky?
So we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Very good.
Okay. Good wording. Thank you. All right. Well, then let's move on to Item 7, the redevelopment plan update.
Okay, so Jason and Chelsea are here if you all have any questions, and you all have the Bay Oaks schedule. One thing that will delay, hopefully only about a month or so, is some additional archaeological investigation that needs to happen for a phase 2. But we hope that that will not delay things too long. Required by the State Historic Preservation Office, just some further archaeological investigation, but they hopefully will schedule soon for that. So otherwise, everything is pretty much on schedule.
Right.
And if you have any questions, Jason is here or Chelsea's here to answer any questions. Make sure to ask Chelsea lots of questions. It's her very
Last one.
It's her last meeting.
Chelsea, I know.
So, but I wanted.
Gateway.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, they offered to be here today, so if you all have anything, if not, we will move on to the agenda. So do you all have any questions for Jason or Chelsea?
Any questions at this time? Yeah.
Jason, I just want a little clarification on the archaeological. Now, was that determined at the outset that this was going to have to be done anyway? We all knew this was going to happen?
So let me take that one. So since that's my background, so how the investigation works, if they find, at first it was just looking like an isolated find, but that's not what it was. And since the area cannot be avoided, the State Historic Preservation Office gets to dictate, especially since there's federal funds in this one, if you cannot avoid the area, then a phase 2 needs to happen. So it was determined that with multiple, just not very many, but due to the area that cannot be avoided, a phase 2 needs to be done. So we did not know this in the beginning. It's just kind of like the permitting process that keeps kind of changing. There is never anything in stone when you get, when you get into a project, because things come up. So this was not something that we knew about until the report came out on what their phase 1 came up with.
Where?
Chelsea.
Where, what?
Where did they find something that they had a question about?
So there was a projectile point, I think, that was found, and a couple other things that were found. I have to get the site map for you.
So essentially, with permitting, you typically go through a pre-application process. Not to bore you with the details, but we were given direction to go to left field, and then of course we submit, and they're like, nope, you need to go to right field. And so new staff, changeover, new eyes on applications, not to bear any excuses, but these are the things that we as staff have to go through. And so there were two artifacts that were found, essentially right where the new ball field will be. And so we cannot avoid that area as part of the new development or the redevelopment. So we are, unfortunately, we have to go through this process. There's no way around it.
Federal law. Yeah.
And so fortunately, Allison, this is her background, her ballywag, so she was very knowledgeable and was able to, ask the right questions. Of course, we didn't go down without a fight, but we'll see at least a 1 month delay with the permitting, because now we have to contract with a company to come out, do the assessment, submit those reportings, et cetera. But nonetheless, we're still moving forward on the building permit side. We are at 90% design. So the building permit goes through a kind of a different process than like the parcel, the zoning. We did get that submitted through the town to GFA. They are reviewing, giving us comments, so we can kind of get ahead of the game in this month lapse that we have. So we're pushing forward with that. Everything else is on queue. I'll let Jason kind of give an update with that front parcel. I know you guys have seen it. It's a mess out there, and then it rained, and it's even more of a mess. So, but I'll let him kind of give an update with that.
Chelsea, before we get Jason, I'd like to ask you, you mentioned that we're currently in the 90% design phase. We've been in the 90% design phase for, what, 6 months?
So not necessarily 6 months. They submitted 90% maybe a month ago. At the 90% is when you typically would apply for permitting and for our development order here at the town. Because we don't have that South Florida permit that dictates the stormwater, I'd hate to waste time and taxpayer dollars and submit something that could theoretically be changed by South Florida, by their requirements. So that is kind of why we are in a holding pattern. The building permit, we're moving forward because that's not really dictated by the South Florida permit. The structure, the architecture of that building, that's by Florida statute and building codes. So yes, we have been at 90% for maybe a month, 6 weeks, but that's
Well,
held up.
I just recall it was a few months ago that we had this presentation and it said we were at the 90% design phase and right, and so we thought, okay, well, like we're almost there.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested.
And every time we do a resubmittal to South Florida, per their codes, they have 30 days to review. And you can bet your bottom dollar they use all 30 days.
Yep.
So again, if they ask for more information, we resubmit, they have another 30 days to review. And I think we're on our second RFI for that. And unfortunately, it's the name of the game.
And if I'm not mistaken, the issue of having those bids come in based on the permitting process will determine what the actual budget of this building is. It's currently at the 90% design phase. So if it comes in outrageously more expensive than what we budgeted, then are concessions made to the project based on budget?
The budget's the budget right now, and it's $5.5 million. We were fortunate to get that $1 million grant for the ball field. By putting it out to bid, we'll have line items on there to say, what if we're way over budget, what can we cut back on, or can we find additional grant funding? I'll tell you right now, it's over budget. The project's over budget. So I mean, the building, the engineer's opinion of probable cost is at $7.5 million for the building. So
How much was
for the building, at 90% design, it's at $7.5 million.
7.5?
Yes, ma'am.
Whoa.
So, and it's been over budget since the very beginning. And we all know that. That's nothing new. That's not a surprise. But again, staff's trying to help find grants, other subsidies that we can do to get this project complete.
So was there an opportunity, because there was a total of 10 million for these 3 projects, Times Square, Bayside, and Bay Oaks, was there any opportunity to shift some of that money toward Bay Oaks? Like, say, the Bayside Park building that never happened?
That's a good question for the town manager.
I think we
Okay.
asked
Barbara. Thanks, Barbara.
Come on, Jason.
Sidestep.
Jason, answer that for me.
That's a good question for the town manager.
Okay.
Didn't we ask that once before and it kind of got sides?
Yeah, I don't think we ever got an answer.
Yeah. And I read something that 14 million has been allocated.
No, ma'am. 10
Oh,
million.
that
The loan
was
is
what we
what was that?
wanted that we never got, if you remember.
10 million is the loan amount for all 3 projects.
Plus the 1 million grant?
10 million is the loan amount, the loan, which we have to repay back. The
Oh,
$1 million is
Okay, good.
separate pot.
Our town manager's not available, right?
We can see if he's available, if you'd like.
Chelsea, a quick question about the Swift Mud permit. With the latest developments of the delay, the month delay that has to happen, is that going to affect that permit then, that's anticipated to come in this week?
Permit.
The Swift Mud permit? On the time frame it had, it is 5/6, I believe is what it was.
Yeah, we just got notified, last week or the week before of the additional requirement for the phase 2, right?
Yes, it was last week.
Yeah, so that is going to delay that timeline.
That's what,
Yes.
Chelsea, another question with regard to grants, now that we know that we're over budget without these bids even coming in, what activity is the town involved with right now pursuing those grants? And what are the options?
You want to take that?
No.
Jason?
Okay.
Of course, we're always actively looking for grant opportunities. That's how the National Fitness Court came up. That's how this Land and Water Conservation Fund came up. But as you well know, it is better to have a designed and permitted plan, build, shovel-ready to apply for grant funding.
Okay, so once we get to that phase,
That's an easier sell to a grantor
And a 1F.
than a, hey, this is an idea we have, it's a great idea, and it's floating around.
But are there other opportunities then for grants once we get to that point?
I'm sure there will be. We get emails all the time
Yes.
that get sent to us to be able to apply. So we will be in the loop and we'll be all looking out for
Jason
that.
and Allison will be in the
yeah. We will be. We just don't have any that we have applied for right this minute, so.
Correct.
Really can't yet.
Yeah.
They must have heard.
Chelsea, before Roger comes on board, I just want to wish you the very best
Thank
with
you.
Oh,
your
yes.
new position at
Yeah.
Gateway and all of the wonderful work you've done for the
I
beach.
appreciate it. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. And no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, see, I did not know that until just recently,
Yeah.
so very cool.
But no, thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to Roger to answer your question, Barbara.
Good.
My girl.
Hi,
Okay.
Roger. Fine, how are you?
It's nice to see
I have
you.
a question about, what we want and what we're gonna get based on the reality of budget. And the question that I raised was, I know that we had a loan of $10,000 for the 3 projects, Times Square, Bayside Park, and Bay Oaks. Now that we hear that the building itself is estimated at 7.5, as it is in the 90% design phase, were we able to pull from the Bayside Park building that was never constructed?
Okay, so the Bayside Park building was going to be for the upland facility for the mooring field. And the plan there was that the mooring field would pay for the building over time. And the town was going to advance the money to pay for the building. And then the mooring field was going to pay back that amount of money. So the net cost of the town for the building in terms of the general fund would have been 0. So when the building came out of the plan, it really didn't affect the $10 million loan. So I think the underlying question you have is, will we theoretically have enough money for the building at Bay Oaks? So thus far, we have 2 $1 million grants for Times Square. And we also have a $1 million grant for Bay Oaks. And the town's contributing $1 million towards Times Square. So that takes our total budget for calculation purposes from $10 million to $14 million.
Okay.
So the, we're very hopeful that that combined with the fact that the council authorized us to use the American Rescue Plan money for all the water and sewer improvements at Times Square, Bay Oaks, and Bayside, that'll probably save us another $1 million collectively. So I think we're in the ballpark. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't need money to complete the project. We might need a little bit, but right now, I think we're close enough that I'm not sort of sweating that issue.
Great.
All right, the issue that I was sweating was that we will have a building with nothing inside of it other than 4 walls, doors, and
But no chairs.
no chairs and stuff.
I told you not to worry about that interior.
So,
We're flexible.
well, but we do have a way to begin to address that. I think you may be aware that Council of Beach had approached his colleagues to adjust some of our fees because he was concerned that the projects might need a little bit more money. So if the council carries through and applies those fees to what I'll call the outfitting of the building, we should be okay. That doesn't mean we'll have everything on the day we open, probably not, but probably over 2 fiscal years, we should be able to outfit the building.
That's excellent news, Roger. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Hypothetically, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Do you have a ballpark in terms of, when this project will be open? I mean, just as a, within a,
Well, we've had a little setback in terms of the schedule because one of the outside reviewing agencies says we have to do a secondary, and Allison Pavilion on that.
Yeah, the phase two,
fa-
archaeological, yeah, we already talked about.
Okay, so we had hoped that we wouldn't have to do that, and we actually have the plans in with the building department for a building permit review. And the idea is when we go out for bids, the contractor just walks in the door, pulls the permit, because have already been reviewed. The planning department is already reviewing it to issue the development order. So we were kind of chugging along, and everything was kind of on schedule, so we got this last little bit of news, but we don't think it's insurmountable. We're hopeful that, hopefully by the time we kind of wrap up the entrance lot project, which you probably have driven by and seen it's underway, hopefully won't be much of a break in construction per se till we actually start the project. If the building kind of gets delayed, we might do the road first, or we might do the building first. We'll see how that kind of plays out. But it's my goal to try to keep the construction moving forward and get that done. Because of how the state grants for Times Square work out, we were originally going to try to do that project in '22, but it looks like we're going to do that in '23. So the goal will be to try to wrap up Bay Oaks in the second half of '22 and the first half of '23, and then start Times Square in the second half of '23.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Looks like we're moving.
That's incredible progress.
Yes.
Thank you, Roger.
Oh,
Yeah, so, and what I kind of point back to, and some of you folks who've been on the committee for a long time may recall this, I know we started with the entrance lot. And I encourage you all to think big, and this committee came through and did exactly that.
Although it did, our Think Big cost 15 million just for the,
Well, but look, I think, although we're not building the active gym now, we have it in a way that will attach to a new building when it gets built. I think we'll have a magnificent community center, a grand entrance into the park. We'll have, a high school competitive level field with lighting. So you all have a lot to be proud of in terms of your project planning. I told you, I think back in those days that, that everyone was kind of, we knew the project was too bigger than the budget, but I told you that, it's not over yet. We have work to do. We should be able to get some grants, and I knew that we would be able to get grants for Times Square easier than we can get grants for Bay Oaks, because it's just the nature of the grants, the way grants work. But I think we're in a pretty good position financially.
great.
Our council is very progressive in terms of trying to upgrade the town, and I encourage them to do that. If we want other folks to invest here, we have to invest here ourselves. So I'm really feel like we're in an okay place considering where we are. Now, in the world economy, things are a little squirrely right now. And prices are changing throughout the day, much less daily. So we don't know. But I don't think we have a gaping hole. We have a manageable hole that will have to be addressed. And then it's really going to come down to council prioritization. Do you want to do this before you do that versus something third, or how do you want to do that? We're not big enough to do multiple things at the same time. So we have to kind of prioritize, and council will be getting to work on the '23 budget in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how those priorities shake out by September.
Great.
So I have two questions, Roger. So by pushing back Times Square, how does that affect the grants at all coming in, because we're pushing it back?
No, that's why we're pushing back. So let me help you understand that. The state fiscal year starts July 1st. So even though we have two $1 million grants, they don't give us the money on July 1st. They have little thousands of grantees throughout the state. And it usually takes them 60 to 90 days to get that paperwork out to the grantees, which would be us, they're the grantor. So our concern was that if we didn't get, and we can't spend any money on the project till we execute the grant documents. So that means that if we couldn't start spending any money in Times Square till late August, middle of September, and we have 4-month lead times for materials, we were gonna be into season for sure. But as I said, the state fiscal year runs from July 1st to September 30th. So if we start April 17th, which is the Monday after Easter 23, we'll still be in the grant cycle year, but we won't, you know, and we'll have time before that date to pre-order materials so that they'll be on site for the 17th, and on the 17th we'd actually, you know, crate dust. So, no, the thing I posed to the council was that if they wanted us to go in 22, we could. It's not that we, you know, we're not ready, but I just wanted to be forthright with them and the stakeholders at Times Square and the community that there's no way that I can ensure that the project would be complete, you know, before January of 23. And I think the council made a wise choice in holding off. We can, you know, it doesn't really matter what the lead time is, because we have from, let's just say the state signs their agreement with us in middle of September. We have from September till April to order the materials, and we'll have to figure out where we're gonna warehouse them, but we can get everything we physically need on site. So then it's just a matter of, you know, digging holes and screwing things together and stuff like that. So in terms of helping us keep the window of construction to a minimum, that's really a better way to go.
And then my other question, when you mentioned adjust fees, what fees are all included in that? How much would that benefit us?
Well, it creates an amount of money. How much the council will allocate towards this, you know, the outfitting of Bay Oaks is to be determined. But I think between the two fee adjustments, although one won't really kick in till October, because it was set up to be implemented in January, and it was one of those things that everyone renewed and most people renewed in October, so they didn't really hit, the fee increase didn't really kick in this year. But I think we could generate about $500,000.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, between the two. So it's, I think, you know, we should be able to have enough money over 2 years to pretty much,
Okay.
I guess if we, you know,
That brings us,
don't let someone do the art, we should be okay.
Was it short-term rentals and parking that went up?
Yes.
Go ahead, Betty.
I was just gonna ask for any other questions.
Oh, okay. I just had, and getting back to the plan, I know we're at 90% design phase. One of the conversations that we had at a previous Bay Oaks meeting was the fact that, you know, we all originally had this roundabout right at the entrance for people to be able to drop off, you know, and then go directly into the building without having to walk very far. And that, because of all the shifting of the ball fields, had to be reconfigured so that there is no longer the roundabout, but that people have to park and walk in all cases. But I'm looking at this N-site landscape design plan, and it shows the parking areas that actually, if you drive through the parking area on the right, there seems to be a drop-off place there that could just be a very, very short walk into the building itself. Is that the concession that was made based on the fact of the reconfiguration of the ball fields that allowed a drop-off place to happen?
I think part of the roundabout thing was the trolley that came into, right? Somebody didn't have room to do the roundabout.
Yeah, well, right, we had to make sure the 22-foot long fire truck and the trolley, if we needed to get in there, could make that turn, which changed the geometry a little bit. So, you know, what we, from the staff perspective, were kind of trying to accomplish was sort of like a grand entrance, I don't know, like you might see for like the Academy Awards, something like that, where you sort of drive in, you go around the circle, you get dropped off. You know, if we were having a big event, we might even have valet parking. You know, a type of thing with sort of a grand entranceway type of, you know, phenomenon, if you will. So that's what we were thinking. And then, of course, we're looking for the day-to-day, you know, functionality of, you know, yeah, if you're, I don't know, if you're an instructor and you're using a building and you're bringing in a weight bench with you, you know, it's going to be, yeah, you're going to stop up front, drop it off, and go park your car, bring it back and take it upstairs type of thing. But the real challenge with the parking, just so you understand, is we don't really want to overpave the property. So one of the considerations will be for council will be to agree that we'll have a fewer than, if we have maximum occupancy, we won't have enough parking spots for maximum occupancy, but we're not going to have maximum occupancy every single day. So do we want to pave all that, or do we want to have overflow parking for those times that we do have maximum occupancy?
We had 3 spots that we tried to take out.
So, and one of the things we were trying to be very careful of is when people were parking around the pool, that lot that's adjacent to the pool, that those people who are parking or looking for spots in that area are not blocking the sort of the entranceway. So they pull in and pull out and move forward versus multiple movements. So we adjusted that parking to facilitate that, to make sure that, you know, we don't stack cars out into the entranceway and even onto Estero.
Any other questions for Roger while he's here?
Roger, if you would, just for quick clarity for anybody that may be paying attention, when they say the $7.5 million for just the building, can you clarify that that's just the building and not the overall Bay Oaks project? Or what is the total dollar amount for the total Bay Oaks project?
Well, I haven't seen the latest estimate yet, because, I'll be honest with you, until the bids are in, I mean, I could sit here and say, I could sit here and do a paper exercise and say it's gonna be this, that, or the other thing. And, so until the bids come in, I really don't get too nervous about what we're gonna have to do. But once the council, we had the grants, and once we had the American Rescue Plan money, and then, the other town, we have secondary gas money for roads, and we have road impact fee money for roads. So we sort of have a package way of dealing with it. I'll digress and tell you guys a story that when I was in another job, I had a $500 million capital budget, and we had our budget hearing, and budget hearing started at 5 and went till 2 in the morning. And I was going back up to my office at 2 in the morning to get my stuff to go home. The phone rang, and the county manager comes up and says, "Oh, we have a new $10 million project." So from the time I went from the council chambers to my office, the budget already changed. So all I say is I'm used to those kind of things, and I think that through a variety of our resources, we with everyone's cooperation, we'll have the flexibility to deal with things. And to the extent that the building won't be fully outfitted on day one, it won't be fully used on day one either. So we'll ease into that over probably 2 fiscal years, and we'll be fine. And in terms of the construction costs, I think between our other capital funds, the American Rescue Plan funds, the loan, and in the grants, I think we're gonna be okay. I think we're gonna be okay.
Great.
You know, I mean, the worst case scenario would be that we would, if we really ran short of money, we would pre-wire for the field lighting, but not necessarily put the lights in on day one. That would be that's sort of our, if you wanna know what our backup plan would be, if we sort of got into a cash crunch, that would be it. Because come in and set those poles and put the fixture up there once it's all pre-wired anyway in the ground. So that would be our sort of backup plan if we had some unexpected costs that we had to deal with.
So not necessarily downgrading things, just putting them on hold until we can have the money for them.
Well, you know, that's the funny thing about construction. I mean, I don't know if any of you have built a house or renovated your house or whatever, but it always takes longer, and, you know, there's always things you find that you have to kind of deal with. So it's just the nature of the beast. You know, one of my commitments has always been to keep sort of our cost of government down. Because even once we get everything built, Allison's gonna need more staff. We're gonna have more electricity. I mean, there's, you know, there are just gonna be operational expenses that we're gonna have to deal with. So I'm trying to accomplish all this without really affecting our budget. And then where we will have to affect our budget is as we begin to staff up to maintain that facility and operate that facility. So we'll probably begin that process this year to bring some people on board in October. That fiscal year, beginning in October, to start to bring a couple people on board, get them trained and get them working with Allison and learning our operation and learning about our camps and learning about our programs and that type of stuff. So we'll probably bring, you know, half the people on in fiscal '23 and the other half when the building opens. So we're trying to think about all those types of things as well.
Which is a huge problem for so many people, trying to get the adequate number of employees that will operate this, and that's a huge challenge, I know, for Allison and for the town in general. Help wanted signs are everywhere.
Right, so, well, there's two issues with that. One is, of course, just the competition for employees, if you will. But then we have a secondary problem, which is that just the housing market is just, you know, very, very difficult for people. We have several people who are employees who are renting here on the beach who are basically being priced out by their landlords. So we have a double challenge with respect to that. Anything else I could tell you?
Anything else?
Okay, well, I'll leave it to you guys. So here's the thing. We you know, it'd be great to start thinking about, how we can maybe do some naming rights for certain rooms and things like that in the building. So, you know, maybe you all can begin to think about that. I heard Denzel Washington said to a group of rich athletes the other day is that, you know, when you drive and a hearse is driving down the street, there's not a moving truck following it. So we need to do what we can while here on Earth. And, you know, for those people who have the resources, maybe they can help us and leave a memorial to somebody or something like that in the building. So. So we have, you know, we have rooms we could name, you know, we have fields we could name, so we have some things,
All
we
that stuff.
you know.
And
So,
unfortunately,
anyway,
our friends group has not yet been reactivated, and so as a result, for us to go out and fundraise and hold events is sort of on hold.
Exactly.
Right, well, you know, well,
And the town can't raise funds, or can?
well, we do, we raise funds,
Yes,
we raise funds through taxes, but that's why we have the Friends of Bay Oaks and the Friends of Mount House and the Friends of the variety of these different activities is to, so, you know, for the fundraising sort of arm, for the things that the town, not necessarily can't do, but to help the town accomplish certain things. So, I know as part of your discussions, you're talking about combining, and I think that, you know, that in of itself may help you fundraise. So, but never too soon to start. So, you know, whether that's, you know, one of these sort of Saturday activities to fundraise, or whether that's, you know, an event, well, I'll leave it to you. You all are well entrenched in the community and know what might work or not work.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your coming in.
Oh, always a
And taking
pleasure, always a
time out
pleasure
of
to
your
see
busy
you.
day.
If you have any questions today, you know, as a group or individually, you can always get in touch with me. I'm glad to spend some time with any of you.
I think we're okay.
All right, you got a good advocate right there sitting at the end of the thing to
Thank
help
you
you
very
along,
much.
so.
Thank you. Okay, I think that brings us to our strategic plan.
Yes, so thank you, Betty. So everybody has a update for the strategic plan. If you all, we are moving along even with COVID. We've had some new events. I mentioned that, you know, Becky was talking about youth events. We did have a movie for kids. Did you know about that?
We weren't able to make it, but I
Yeah, so it's been a little slow, I'm not gonna lie, but now that COVID is behind us now, we do have some plans to be able to do that. And also, really, we had Mistletoe Market, and the Mermaid Fest was supposed to be there in April. Those are all events that we're collaborating on. It's on page 4. New things that we're doing. And then, of course, with COVID being behind us, we're really looking forward to getting the calendar out. So Jeff Haig, did I say,
Hauge.
huh?
Hauge.
Say it again?
Hauge.
Oh, I don't even know how to say his last name. I'm so sorry. Jeff.
Hauge.
Augie?
Hauge.
Augie.
Yes.
H-A-U-G-E.
Augie.
Okay.
Jeff's good.
Jeff's good. Jeff is our new campus manager. He is here. He has a wonderful background, the Boys and Girls Club, as well as YMCA, and he's been in the business for 17, 18 years?
20-some years.
20-some years. Anyway, he is a new employee, and I didn't want to, I couldn't add it to the agenda, but you all will get plenty of time to talk with him and ask him all kinds of wonderful questions, and I would like to have him have a section at the next meeting to be able to, I know this meeting was being short since Betty has to leave, and we have something in here at 11. But with that being said, Jeff is really helping the staff and get planned for the calendar. So our goal is to have our community calendar of events out and ready by the end of October. So everybody will know when fun days are. Everybody will know when we're having boss programs and when those are and how to sign up. Everybody will know when the youth programs are, our family programs, things like that. So it's a really great goal for us, and we look forward to be able to plan all of that a year in advance. So come October, the end of October, everybody knows what's happening for the next 10 months. So do y'all have any specific questions about the strategic plan or anything that I can answer for you?
My question is, how do we get out all the information? Like, so the basketball, for example, is open, but I haven't looked at the website. I mean, I don't know how long it's been, and I follow Bay Oaks on Facebook. I don't look at it on
Okay,
Facebook
so
very much.
that is how we send out information. You need to be keyed in to social media or on our town webpage. If you look on the town webpage, it actually is on the very first part. The youth basketball is on the front page of the town webpage. So I would look on the Bay Oaks page, the town webpage, and then the
How do
social
people know
media.
to do that though? Like, I mean, not me personally, but anybody else in the community, or like for the fun days. I know people who send their kids to fun days, not regularly, just like every now and
Mm-hmm.
then. So I was telling them to sign up ahead of time, and they had no idea, because they're not there very often.
It's really on the website. That's the only manpower that we can do. We do not have the staff to go out and to be able to do that. And we have no budget for marketing. So it's really word of mouth. We do send things out through the school, and that will continue to do that. So flyers get out. But please check our social media on a regular basis. Also, the town website, they'll highlight on the town page some different things, like we've got camp, we've got youth basketball, so in social media. So the Bay Oaks website, the web page on the town webpage is the most up to date. So if they're interested in something, the goal is to get the registrations on there and open even at the beginning before school, because the school calendar's already out. We can already start planning our youth and teen programs. So the goal that I have given the staff to accomplish is to get all that on the website. So here's what I envision: a calendar for, say, January. Wow, is there fun days on there? What is the BOSS program doing? And being able to click and sign up for those things. So that is the goal. It is a huge goal, but I know the staff can accomplish it. So really, it's the town website. Mound House has our website, and that's how everybody finds out. So on the message, it says, if you're interested in programs, please visit our website at www. So people who are calling, people who are reaching out through the website, it has that universal message on where to check.
Pushing it. Mm-hmm. I'll make sure to look on Facebook, like share the messages that maybe other people.
Yeah, because I usually share them with the friends.
Yes.
You do a very good job on that.
I share them with the friends of
Wonderful.
Fort Myers Beach moms.
Oh, great.
And I share it with, on my site, and I share it on the soccer one. So, I mean, I share, whenever somebody shares something with me, it's going out.
Right.
Well, I sent
Newsletter
it.
too? Isn't there a newsletter too? That goes out, a newsletter?
Yes, there is a monthly newsletter that goes out as well.
So- And so that, a lot of things are in there.
Get the Observer to print up something for free for us.
Yeah, we always send things out. The Easter egg hunt was in there. Did you
I
see
know,
that?
yeah.
And
It
there
was a
something
huge
else that
turnout.
was
I
in
mean, that's the
there.
kind of stuff that
Yeah,
not everybody looks online, you know?
yeah.
Anytime that
right.
you can get them to come to do photos, you'll get something in there.
Right, yeah.
I always would send
Absolutely.
pictures. Here's some pictures.
Yeah.
I know, like for soccer, you have signs that go up for soccer, so people drive by and they see those things that they wouldn't know.
And that might be something to do too.
Well, those are, I don't know
Generic.
if we can do that per town ordinance, put those out. Those little stick in the things, I
Right.
have to check on that because I don't know that that's something, but I'll check on it.
Yeah, because if we do, I'd like to do some for hiring too.
Yeah, exactly. I know, we
Right,
have
I mean,
the
that's
stickers
what
for the,
people look at when they drive
yeah.
by.
Well, maybe we can put them off the island,
yeah.
right off.
So the goal, though, Becky, is I always tell people if they want to know information, call the staff. Pretty much everybody has a cell phone, and they have the Bay Oaks. So call the staff and ask them where to get that information. I mean, if they're wondering, just call the staff and say, how can I get information on the calendar of events that you have for the youth or the after-school program or the fun days or the camp? And really, the majority of the people have smartphones, so the website is really our tool to be able to do that.
Easy if
It
you know to
is
go there.
easier, and, you know, paper is really expensive now. I'm just gonna tell you with the pandemic, I don't know if you all know that, how things are not really in print now. Some papers don't actually offer any print anymore. Due to the pandemic, there's been a paper shortage. So we're really trying to save paper and to have the digital access, but,
When it goes right in the garbage.
and yeah, we recycle, but you're right, so.
No, yeah, we do too, but I mean, that's what happens to a lot of it, and people don't read it. and-
Yeah, but web pages of sites is really the go-to. So the town and also Bay Oaks, and then just calling the staff and asking is what we have. And then they have, for people who don't have access to that, if they do call, we can mail them information. It's there at the desk. They can have and that's the goal is, hi, I'm in town for the next 6 months. I'm a senior. What do you have?
Right.
There you go. I have teens here. Do you have a program this year? Where are you going? Can I sign up for a trip? Here you go. So the goal is to have specific information on each program and then overall a calendar that will be on there.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you all have any questions about the strategic plan or any additional questions about the programming?
Oh, it looks like everything is ongoing or been completed.
We are definitely moving forward, and I'm really excited to step it up a little bit, and hopefully with Jeff as the campus manager, and as we get new staff, we'll be able to increase that. But the staffing shortage, Barbara, that you brought up is very real. Our hours will not be extended at the pool until we can get staffing. Also with camp, our hours at the rec center may reduce so we can provide our core services, which is our summer camp, which means no weekend hours. But we have very few participants that are using the facility on Saturday, and we're not open on Sunday. So it really depends on staffing over the next couple of weeks, what we're able to provide the community.
I did see the advertisement y'all had on, like signing up for camp instructors and all.
Yeah, we're really trying hard. The staff has been out to FGCU and also FSW to see if anybody wants to have any internships. We're doing really all that we know to do, social media, physically going out and talking to the people at the schools to see if anybody is interested. So if you know a college student that would like to be interested, and they do need to be a college student for the lifeguarding or for the camp, let them know that we are here. We would love to have them part of our team, so. And at the next BORCAB meeting, I'll be giving you the information on what the schedule is gonna be.
Nice.
Okay.
we have the next couple of weeks to, fingers crossed, we get some wonderful staff. So is there anything else for the strategic plan?
I don't think so. I don't think we had anything on Bay Oaks, on the Friends. So,
There was one little piece on it, but that was at the very, selling merchandise at rec center for pools, t-shirts, hats, water bottles, and then it was a question mark.
right.
Budget dependent, Friends of Bay Oaks.
Yeah, I think she's talking about the next agenda item.
Oh, the next agenda item. I'm sorry, I was telling the
okay, Karen.
strategic plan.
That brings us to the department update, and I apologize that I have an obligation that I have to leave. I think our next meeting will be June 7th
Yes.
at 9 a.m. here. And so I'm going to just miss the department update and ask our vice chairman, who is,
Is it Barbara Hill?
Me.
Yes, Barbara Hill. Barbara Hill is the vice chair.
Right
and she
hand
is my,
man. You didn't know you were
court.
vice chair.
oh, yes, no, I knew.
Too many committees.
But I just had to smile at you. And I appreciate it, and I apologize for having to leave a few minutes early. But
Thank you, Betty.
look forward to seeing everybody, and I think that we accomplished a lot today, a lot more than what I had anticipated. So thank you all for all of your efforts, and I will quietly leave. Thank you. And we'll turn it over to our vice chairman.
Thank you, Betty. And yes, and the extended conversation that we had with Roger was completely informative and kind of
Yes.
helped get a perspective on just the status of the redevelopment. Do we have anything to report for the Friends of Bay Oaks? Would you like to speak to that, Karen?
Yeah, because at our last meeting, we decided to table it that month because we were looking at people to be involved, and I had slotted in people, and people were.
I know.
And
I'm
so.
guilty. I did that.
No, but that's fine. But then also, I mean, I think this is gonna take a big turn if we combine all of our groups. So I don't think we will necessarily have a Friends of the Mound House per se, or a Friends of Bay Oaks per se. We might have a Friends of Recreation and Parks, or whatever it may be, that get combined, so.
I never thought about that until just now either.
You bet.
That never even crossed my mind. That's a whole new.
Yeah, so I'm still sitting here with this check.
Oh.
You're doing a very good
And
job.
what is
holding
that
on to
from? The Putt
This is
Putt?
still from the Putt and Pub,
Okay.
and who knows if it's even worth it anymore. I mean, I have to go to the Women's Club and say, can you reissue if we need to? But I don't know that we want to move forward with this until we actually get into the groove. Are we going to combine everything, and then it becomes one with maybe when people come in and,
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
what? I don't know.
I don't know about that. I don't know about combining it. Because you're gonna have people that specifically want their funds to be allocated
wanna
to this.
But you can do
Or
that.
that.
You can do that
Within?
Within. You can do that within. I mean, just like we have,
A sub,
yeah, Friends of Lovers Key, but you can do it for education, you can do it for the building, you can do it, you know, for,
So,
I do agree. I mean, funds and advisory boards are different.
Yeah.
but you know, if, I wonder if there's a way to use already something established and then have little subcommittees off to fundraise for
right.
different, which I think, Karen, is what you're really
in the
getting at.
budget, it would
Yeah,
have to be,
yeah.
in the account, it would have to be designated
Yeah,
to.
it'd be
Right.
designated
Well,
as
and-
people that
Or
want to
maybe
go
you have
to
two
that.
accounts.
And to be honest, there are people, just like even if we merge these two advisory boards, they're gonna say, I don't wanna sit through a Bay Oaks conversation. I don't wanna sit through a Mound House conversation. So I think there is going to be an allegiance for two very separate initiatives that probably should stay the same. I think Danielle is working on the Bay Oaks senior citizens to see if we could rally. Am I correct that that is sort of going forward? I gave her some verbiage as to how we could, activate the Friends of Bay Oaks
Yes,
organization.
that is going on. Yeah, she put it in her newsletter and she is trying hard. We have actually been trying to get the word out for some time, but yes, we're continuing to do that. She
Okay,
is doing
I
that.
just suggest let's, again, table that for
Okay.
the June meeting, and maybe we'll.
See
get
what
some
happens with
feedback
the
from
committees. Okay.
Danielle. And if, simply because there's just so many moving parts right now, if we keep those two separate, the two funding organizations separate for now, we'll see what happens in
Yeah.
a couple of years as to whether that should be merged. But if Danielle can come up with some energy from that group, which makes sense, because they're the ones with time on their hands, they're the ones that have a vested interest in Bay Oaks, they're a very involved, energetic group of people, and they'd be perfect Friends members. So let's table that
And
conversation
I don't know if we want to go
to
there.
the June 7th meeting.
Denise still has that account open. I don't know if we would want to go there, though.
I thought about that, but I don't want to put it in there if we're going to change up different entities or whatever, because that's under a very old leadership, and when you had to redo all of this, I mean, all of the signatures are going to have to be changed. So I've just held on to the check, and I know that the Women's Club, if it expired, they would reissue for us. That's not going to be an issue. So I just haven't done anything except keep it in my folder that I have everything and
Well, it's
kind of go
nice
from
that you're
there.
reporting it and just, okay, well, now I
Still
spend it, so
here,
we
it's
don't have
still
it
here.
anymore.
I don't know that it expires though. I mean, a lot of times you'll get a check that says not valid after 180 days or whatever.
Yeah.
If it's a check like that, I don't know that it expires.
It doesn't say anything about here that it expires. I'll just ask,
regular
I'll ask Nan Williams, she's the treasurer now of Women's Club, and I'll just tell her, hey, just in case you've noticed, you probably have noticed, I hope, hasn't been cashed yet, so.
So I don't mean to rush everybody, but we do have something in Chambers at 11, and they do need to try to have a few minutes to
Okay.
set up.
Yes, of
So
course.
if we
And I
could
think-
just kind of,
Shall we forego the departmental report because we have everything?
yes, and that, you have a copy of that.
You don't have any thing to add to that. Board member items, if there's anything that's crucial, bring it up. If not, forget about it.
Forget about
You can skip the public invited to comment. Future meeting date is June 7th. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I motion.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Betty.
I know, we're very similar. Sorry.
All right.
Betty, Barbara, Becky.
Yeah, Becky, okay.
There's too many B girls in
I
here.
know, right? Wait.
Where'd you come from, Karen?
Really?
All right, meeting has been
Bonus.
adjourned at 10:56 a.m. Thank you all so much for your advice and consultation and comments. Very productive meeting. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Barbara.
How's that?
Efficient,
Bum.
Boom,
efficient.
I love it.